Ashwin Malshe, and the title of my talk is AI Applications in Marketing. But this is going to be a 30,000 feet overview of this topic, and so there are going to be some things that I will demonstrate, but I will not be able to elaborate a lot. So please feel free to ask me questions about that. By the way, thanks a lot, Marian, for inviting me here. It's my pleasure. So a little bit about me. I'm an associate professor of marketing at UTSA. I joined UTSA in 2016, and before that, I used to live in Singapore. I used to work for a French business school, so my appointment was like in Singapore a few months, and in France a few months. So I used to commute, and then I decided to move here. I was pretty happy to move here, to be honest. My expertise is mostly in data science. So a lot of people ask me, you're a marketing professor, but how do you handle so much data? So a lot of my training actually is in modeling and data analysis and econometrics and so on. And so that led to this like sort of fusion between marketing and the marketing analytics. And so because of that, I started teaching in data science programs and marketing analytics. So this was the reason actually I moved to San Antonio, was because we were launching this MS in data analytics program in 2016, and the dean wanted somebody who has the experience in both industry as well as in academia, and who can handle both like marketing and data science. And that is the reason I joined UTSA. Over a period of time, because of all the development in AI, I've also started doing a lot of work in AI applications, and particularly how that can be applied to different businesses. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Recently, I have also taken over additional responsibility in the role of faculty director of our Center for Professional Excellence, which is our executive education center in the College of Business here. So we are located in the on the main campus, the 1604 campus, and here mostly our task is to talk to companies and figure out whether they have any interest in doing customized training. And just coincidentally, just yesterday I got a inquiry to prepare a 3-hour workshop on AI for marketing strategy, and this is going to be for a company. We also have a lot of talented faculty who are offering different types of workshops. So we have recently hired a professor from Bradley University in Indiana, who's an expert in sales management, and he has been doing sales training for the last 20 years. And that's like an excellent resource. We also have people who are doing leadership training, finance and accounting type of training, and this new administration Trump administration is very much interested in cryptocurrency and blockchain and all these things, right? So that will have some implications for finance people. And so we have hired a new faculty who is an expert in this area. So we have people who can offer these programs, and UTSA, for whatever reason, never actively did this, like never did an outreach to the local companies. So it was always the executive MBA program, and then a few workshops here and there, and that's all the CPA did all these years. So my job is basically to talk to companies and find out what their needs are in terms of training. So I also own a one-man consulting company called Berries AI, and this company is mostly, what I do here is mostly to analyze data for a client that is based in Houston, and he is a management consultant. So he works for various companies, and so because of that, I get to work with some of the top companies, including, for example, Shell and then Sodexo and so on. And we get all this data, and he doesn't have the capacity there in his firm to handle all the analytics. And so I do that for him, and I have developed major, like a massive code base and we have standardized everything. So once all his data is collected, it is sent to me, and it goes to my code, and it outputs a, a presentation, basically a PowerPoint. And then I send that to him, and then he will then work on it further. But that's how we work at this point. And so, if you have any interest in this, let me know. I have a lot of interesting case studies to talk about there. And we recently published an article in Harvard Business Review based on our consulting work. And another article is currently under work. So a little bit about our MS in Data Analytics program, which is housed in this building. So I come here every fall to teach, because I'm based on the main campus, I come down here to teach in this program, which was originally housed there in the College of Business. And this program is very successful, by the way. We have two cohorts. There's a full-time one-year cohort, and then there is a part-time cohort. And students are extremely, I would say, they are very well trained, and that's why we have alumni all over Texas and in many other states, but mostly concentrated here in Houston, Austin, and Dallas. And a bunch of them are in UTSA here in San Antonio, and HEB, by the way. HEB is the director of our data science is my student. She graduated in, I think, 2017, 2018, that batch. So we have, and not just that, by the way, so I have some students who are in sports analytics, interestingly. So, and for soccer, for instance, right? So many soccer clubs are now hiring data analysts because football and baseball is highly quantitative now. So now that is going into other sports in the US. And so one of our students joined a soccer club in Chicago. So they have, and this is something that might interest some of you. So we have this practicum, 10 weeks of it, which I teach in summer, and this is like at the end of their program. And here is where we want students to get real life experience, work on projects with managers, with their data. So they could do, for example, an internship, and that we consider as a practicum 2 project. So student can, be on your premises for those 10 weeks, and they can work on a project. Alternatively, we could also do a project with a local company. So for instance, HEB wanted to do a project a few years back, and this was a sort of like a something that they really wanted to do, but they don't have the manpower to do it. So it was like a concept they wanted to try, and the concept was that so when we go to HEB, if we find some item missing, like let's say we want to buy it but it is not there on the shelf, that is a bad experience, right? That leads to lower customer satisfaction. It's called as stock out, and the stock out problem is pretty big for them. So that time they had a model which would predict the stock out level of each HEB store at the end of the day. And then based on that, they would stock up from their inventory. That is what they were doing. But that model was about 70% accurate. So what they wanted to test instead was to create a model that is based on actual data of the shelves. So suppose you put video cameras on all the shelves and take pictures continuously of those shelves, and then based on that determine the stock level, right? And so they wanted, that was the concept. By the way, some of the retailers are already doing it. It's not like a new concept, but they wanted to test it at the pilot level. So they gave that task to us. So my students, so I worked with my students on that project. So this was not an internship. So the students were working on the campus, but they had this permission to go to HEB, one HEB outlet, and for example, take pictures of all their shelves. So they did this, and they collected almost 3,500 pictures of shelves. Full shelf, empty shelf, and different products. Some of them are very well lit, some of them are in the shade, and so you can see that well. And they had all this data. Based on this, then they built a model that detects, it puts a bounding box around that space, and it detects and it gives a probability that this shelf is empty or not, right? And then based on that, the manager can make that decision. And so at the end of the day, they will give they will basically have like a list of these items that are highly likely to be, those shelves are highly likely to be empty. And later they use that. So we did a presentation to their top management based on this, and then we also, I think they have now contracted an Israeli company with whom they are working and testing that concept. By the way, some other places like Walmart has these like robots that are also doing, I think, cleaning of the store. So these cleaning robots are moving everywhere, right, in all the aisles. But they are also taking those pictures continuously, and that's exactly what happens. It is processing all this data to decide the stock out levels. So if you are interested, please contact me. I would be very happy to work with you, because I'm always looking out for these projects and for my students. And in fact, UTSA from time to time gives us projects. So I think last year we built a dashboard for our data analytics team in UTSA. They wanted to do this like a dashboard of faculty and student performance. So faculty evaluations as well as student evaluations coming together. They wanted to build a dashboard. So our students helped them do that in Power BI. That is the software we use. So again, very, very practical and good for our students. It's a sort of like a win-win situation. And if you do this project with us, you don't have to pay anything, because the students are getting credit. Only in case of internships, of course, you will have to pay. We don't recommend students to take up unpaid internships, so we highly discourage that. Of course, we can't tell the companies to pay, but we ask our students not to take up that job. So they will then work with us internally in my office, and then we deliver on that project. Right. So then coming to our topic for today. So when we talk about AI, right, the question is what exactly is AI? How do we define artificial intelligence? And if you see the classical textbooks on AI, you'll find that people have been discussing AI for a long, long time now. It is not a new concept. And so AI has been there for probably 75, 80 years now, right? And textbooks are written on that. So you can imagine that people have been teaching this in computer science classes. So clearly there is a large body of knowledge out there for a long time. So we must have some idea about what exactly is artificial intelligence. So there is a famous quote that AI is whatever hasn't been done yet, right? And this is a very practical definition of what is artificial intelligence. So I always give this example from Facebook, that when Facebook was launched, right, it was like a very basic type of a social network. At some point, if you recall that maybe in 2011, 2012, something like that, when you upload a picture with friends, Facebook would start suggesting who all these friends are, and you could tag them. And that was like, okay, hit or miss. Then later, it became extremely accurate. Even if you are not sure who that person is in the picture, Facebook knows, well, that is your second cousin or something, and they will give you the recommendation that you should tag the person, right? And so this is now something that we accept as something else. Like that is. If another social network comes out and it doesn't do that, we'll say, oh, okay, that's like so 90s social network, right? But the reality is that it is actually pretty advanced what they are doing. And this, in 2007, when Facebook was launched, would be considered as artificial intelligence. That a software could recognize your friends and automatically find their accounts and ask you to tag them would be artificial intelligence in 2007. In 2013, that is something which is obvious and is a must-have feature, but it's a trivial feature. We don't even think twice about it, right? So there is no more artificial intelligence. Now we are looking at something else. I remember there was in, I think 2015, I was working with a company in Singapore, in Hong Kong, duty-free shopping or DFS, the luxury retailer. So we are talking about building a dashboard, and one of the managers there said, I wish we could build a dashboard where rather than I clicking on the buttons, I just tell the dashboard that, hey, I want to create a bar graph of our quarterly sales from our Macau store, and it would do that for me, right? And that was artificial intelligence, right? And that would be so amazing. And then fast forward today, that's like a very trivial job now. If you are using ChatGPT, for example, it can do it very easily. It doesn't even, it's not surprising anymore, right? It is very simple. Of course, we still call ChatGPT artificial intelligence, but it is not something that we say, okay, this is a cutting edge technology anymore, that part, that application, right? So that is what this is talking about. And so with that in mind, the stuff that I'm going to show you, maybe you might think that, oh, well, this is very obvious, I've seen this, but some things you'll find that, okay, well, this is really impressive. And so this sort of like a experience is very important for us when we apply these things to marketing. So I'm going to show you a few examples how companies have implemented AI in marketing, because that is right now a very complicated topic, and you see that reflected in the stock prices of all the AI companies. I'm a NVIDIA investor, and right now, really in a bad shape because the stock has performed really bad, because everybody's saying, where is the application? Where is it going to go? All this AI, right? So I will show you a few of them, and clearly there may not be that big a market, but I'm very optimistic about it. I think there is a lot more there that we are not doing at this point. So first of all, just a very quick this explanation about terminology. So you will, in practice, when you talk about people, they will say, oh, this is AI, and that is AI. So it becomes very difficult to understand what exactly we mean by AI when we discuss, or suppose let's assume that I'm a vendor that comes to you and I'm pitching a product, and I say, my software can do AI, but what exactly that means, right? So I need some classification. So I use a very simple classification there. So I say, one is, what do we call it in computer science as machine learning models, and even the ChatGPT and all that in the background will use machine learning. But I'm emphasizing here the word classical. So classical machine learning models have been around for a long, long time. We even today use them. They are used for things like natural language processing, typically used for, say, sentiment analysis of text. So if you are on your brand is on any social media, you're collecting all these comments from social media, right? The Facebook comments, Twitter comments, and maybe Instagram comments, and you want to know what is the overall sentiment from this, right? And so you can use actually just a simple model that will categorize them as positive or negative, and then you can just monitor that over a period of time. And that is not the AI that I'm going to talk about. So that is a classical machine learning model that is doing that natural language processing. The Facebook's the tagging your friend is a computer vision problem, has been around for a while, is getting refined more and more, but that is again a classical machine learning model. Similarly, if you are using it for prediction, like, okay, what is going to be my sales for the next quarter? It's a time series modeling, and you might be using some, again, machine learning model there. In contrast to all this is what we talk about is generative AI. The generative AI is where you are using, again, some algorithms that is going to generate something, some content. It could be text, it could be images, it could be music. Right? So it is generating something on its own. And that is the leap from here to here is massive. Is a major advance in technology. Right? So I'm going to focus on this generative AI. So just before that, let me ask you this. Do you use generative AI, and for what purpose? Marketing? In your company? So you use it for creating content?
Oh, anything. Adobe.
Adobe, right? Yeah. That's actually Firefly, that one?
That one, Photoshop, Illustrator, they all have it now.
All of them have, okay. Anyone else?
I use it for research.
Oh, okay.
Competitor, find out everything that's publicly available about them.
That's an excellent application. I mean, so for competitor analysis, it actually is pretty good, right? So, and I think some of you probably have also used ChatGPT for maybe writing emails and all that stuff,
Yes.
right? It's pretty handy. Right? I use ChatGPT, for example, when I have to write my student recommendation. So I will write my recommendation letter, but my recommendation letter reads like a data scientist's letter, right? It's a report. So I want to make it a marketer's letter, and so I then ask ChatGPT to make it more persuasive and don't use flowery language, but stick to the basics, but use the language that is more persuasive. And it actually does a very good job. And a couple of times my students got awards because of that, and I'm pretty sure that it played a role because I can't convince people that this is really good, right? So I'm going to give you a very quick overview of this, and so I have put, by the way, when I send you the slides, I had some technical stuff that I put to the back of this presentation because Scott is going to present also, so I don't want to take his time. So what I thought was that maybe I'll talk about some of the applications that are really interesting and that are changing things. And if there's any time, maybe we can talk more. But otherwise, I would like to focus on these more. So some of these that companies are already using. The first example is this company called SoundHound. Okay, SoundHound is it's actually a business-to-business company. So not necessarily doing a consumer-based AI, but the idea here is that you can use it for your customers right now, today. And what exactly are they doing? So as the name suggests, it has to do with sound. And so they have basically a voice-based AI system. So imagine this, right? So when you go to Starbucks and you drive through, so Starbucks has to have like the outlet, someone like a human being has to talk to you, right? So when they're talking to you and taking your order, that time they are not making the coffee or some drink. So that is a lost productivity for that person as far as Starbucks is concerned. So many of these fast food restaurants and chains have started using now SoundHound system where you are going to talk to an AI, but you don't even realize it because it will use all the information and everything. And the difference is that, see, previously also, right, like there were AI, sound like systems that could understand the sound. The difference is that, so when you're again waiting for talking to the AI, you are not 100% sure what you want to order. So you start ordering. Like in my case, it happens all the time. Is that my daughter from back, she will start telling me, Dad, I want this, and I say, okay, I don't understand it. Can you talk to this person because she's giving all these details and I have no idea.
You must be at Starbucks.
Yeah. Starbucks, yes, absolutely.
Giving you a complicated drink order.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So if all these things happening, right? So if there's a human being, that human being understands at that point that, okay, ignore the man here who is talking and listen to the child who is talking there in the car, right? So previous systems would not do that. Like imagine how bad Siri is, right? Siri is like that, right? Siri even today is not that intelligent. But if you try to do that with ChatGPT, by the way, ChatGPT is extremely good when you use the voice. By the way, I do that quite a lot because when I'm like doing review or something, I'm rambling a lot. But then it will summarize it. You will understand what I'm saying, and it will summarize it. And so that's what they are doing. So it is already targeted towards customers. And if you want to check, they have their own website where they talk about this. By the way, so I just opened it earlier. So this is their website, SoundHound, and they are also, they give examples by the way in their video, but they also talk about now automobiles using it, and that's, I think, is a good idea. So earlier, Scott, you mentioned about Tesla. So one of the things about Tesla, a lot of people complain is that they have basically an iPad there, right, as a control. So when you're driving at 60, 70 miles, and suppose you want to start maybe your air conditioning or something, and then you have to basically completely like leave your gaze from the road and move the gaze here, and that can be fatal in some cases, right? So instead of that, can you have a voice-based system where you say just, hey car, just reduce it? Already, I think BMW, Mercedes have that system already, right? But what about other cars like Kia and Honda and all of them? Can they have some system like this? And so SoundHound is also advertising that as a client. So I think that this is going to get into other areas. So for instance, I think Tableau and Power BI and all these dashboarding software will do what that DFS executives was asking for. They will start doing without. I don't think there will be a lot of wait for us to do to observe that. They will be pretty quick in doing all these things. Amazon, I don't have to tell you necessarily, but something that Amazon has done over the last 1 year is that, see, in the past, if you had any questions about Amazon products, you could ask that question, right? So there were people who would answer that question. So you could say, hey, I have this specific requirement, would this do that job or not? And then some customer would come and answer that question to you. So there was a Q&A section. Amazon has now removed it. So instead of that now, Amazon has given you, and whether this was a controversial decision, so this is an example I picked up because this happened with me. I was looking for a monitor, and if you now scroll down a little bit, here you will find that they have actually now it's a lot of content here. Yeah, there you go. Looking for something specific, right? And here you have to now, you don't ask that to other people and expect somebody to come and answer that question. Here you can actually type this, right? So for instance, here you can say that, hey, so I can say, does this work with whatever, 220 volt electric system, something like that. And then I wait for it, and then there you go. Does it need 220 volt? No, it works with 100, something like that, right? So it will do this job, and sometimes it will also go to all the reviews and pick those things, like summarize them. So it depends, by the way. Not all the products have this. I don't know. They're maybe rolling it out, so I could not find every product, but some of them. So this summarization is very important because there are, like, in this case, something like 7,000 reviews on this one. 7,000 reviews. Who's going to read those? But sometimes there are some very important nuggets in those reviews that you might miss, and here you can find them very easily. So summarization is a key strength, and you are going to see that happening for your products too. So what I talked to one of the not a VC, sorry, it's an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. So we connected somehow on LinkedIn maybe. And I was asking him, so he builds us AI systems, and he said that what they do is that they now feed in all the product manuals and all these things to the AI, and now customers can ask a specific question about that product rather than going through the manual and finding it out. It's so much easier now to just look for. That's a great application. So I believe that is going to change again customer service quite a lot, because now your customer service agent can also have access to all these details, right? So when they are talking to your client, suppose your customer can't do it for whatever reason, can't access the AI, your customer service agent can access it and explain that. The third example I have is Zoom AI, and I think some of you probably have already used it. So Zoom does this fantastic job of summarizing and also even doing all these to-do lists and everything from the call. So we have recently used this. So for one of our this consulting project, but we are doing some research. We talked to 5 CEOs of some Houston-based companies, and these were like 1-hour Zoom interviews, and they were like a more open-ended type of questions, and the interviews went on, and there were a lot of interesting things they talked about. But at the end of the day, we want to know what exactly is the summary of all that discussion. And so we use that. So I will give you an example, not from that interview, but I will give you an example from my students' meeting. So here is we had this meeting on design patterns recently. And so here you can see all the discussions. A quick recap. His font is small here, but his name is Kian. So what did we talk about? All these things, right? So we discussed struggles with managing large data sets and all these things. And so we did that. Then next steps. What are we going to do based on this meeting? This was a 1-hour meeting, right? So I did this nicely, and then it gives summary. So I think that, well, this is for the meeting, but I believe that this is going to also apply a lot to your customer interviews. And Zoom is one example, but you can also consider other other methods. So for instance, you may not want to use Zoom for this, so you can just just record the interview or a survey. Maybe you're doing a survey with somebody. You record that, and then you can pass on all that to say ChatGPT or Claude or some other AI. There are a lot of products out there that will do it for you. So if you don't trust Zoom, you can use something else. But I believe that is really, really powerful, and it is going to make our lives quite easy. And one last example, then I'll conclude, is Apple Intelligence. So it is still going there. Apple is very slow in making these changes. They are not a company that will do anything that is radical. But what I've seen is that they have been cautious, but they have also done some really great things. So what how I use it these days is basically, again, and I was telling Michael, right? So Michael earlier, when I teach, I teach by the social media marketing also, and so I focus more on the quant side of it, like social media measurements and all that stuff. But there are of course classes on content strategy, right? And I'm not a creative guy, so I can tell students, hey, you can use this framework and create content. But I say, okay, what is an example of a good content, right? And I can't do that on the fly. I will have to spend a lot of time in doing it. But last year, I started using this Microsoft Copilot in the class. So basically, we created this entire scenario for that. And it's like, okay, this is a specific campaign, this is the objective, and this is the framework you should be using. And we want to create a print ad from this. And so give us like 3 or 4 ideas. And now, because ChatGPT also, by the way, can also include images. That time we didn't do that with Copilot, but I believe ChatGPT can also include images and text. So you can get a nice, like a print ad created by and then that at least for me, that's a great example. And I know I will never be able to do that manually myself. So that's fantastic. That could be a prototype if you are using in your. I'm pretty sure you should use that for.
If you don't like it spelled correctly, ChatGPT is great for it.
ChatGPT. So I think that is making a lot of difference. Of course, a lot of people find this very offensive, by the way, at times, because they think, oh wow, you're like, how lazy are you? You are ruining other people's life. But I think that there is always this is always going to happen with technology, right? So I'll just give you one demo and then I'll stop here. So how I use ChatGPT is that a lot of times, like for this talk, right? Let's say I want to thank Marianne, and so I want to write a letter to her. So I will use this. This is the Apple Intelligence. Oops, it didn't go. It's exactly at the demo time. It's maybe the internet is not. I have internet. Oh, so really sorry. Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. Now it came in, right? So it came here, this menu as I compose, and compose now here is. Sorry for the small font, but it's basically is asking compose with ChatGPT, and here I'm going to give it 2-3 points here. Okay? Thank for the chance to talk about AI in marketing, right? And I particularly enjoyed the interaction. You don't have to worry about spelling mistakes, by the way. Audience. And that's it, right? So I just give these 2 points here, right? Thank Marianne for the chance to talk about AI in marketing. I particularly enjoyed the interaction with the audience. And then I just wait. It will create this, right? And so I can tweak that a little bit, and then that's it. So for sending mass emails and all that, this is really helpful. You can even customize them, right? So you can say, okay, all right, depending on who, so you don't want to send the same email to everybody, so the email content can be customized. And so in this case, of course, I'm using a very simple, like a tool that is over here. But here you can even modify this a little bit. So you can use the API, they call it Application Programming Interface. You can code that a little bit. So it can change the content and it will customize it for every recipient that is going to get it. Very specific for them.
I guess my question is, anything you put into ChatGPT then goes into the aggregate world. So people, if they Google or if they do ChatGPT, it can pull your information out.
So, see, that is the part that is not 100% guaranteed, right? First of all, like the privacy part.
Right.
So they promise that they are not going to use any of that data for training their models. So whatever we are sending, all this information is not going to get used for that. That is what they are saying at this point. And that is where the New York Times and OpenAI right now, they're fighting in court about that, because New York Times said that we could reproduce our articles exactly as we are. That definitely there is a privacy concern. I believe that for Apple, the contract is that they can't use. That is the reason that they have done the tie-up. So they needed more visibility, OpenAI, and Apple needed that help from them. So the agreement is that they can't. So having said that, if you are concerned about that, there are models that are completely, they remain on your own systems. The downside is that you need hardware for that. So you need to have the NVIDIA GPUs to process all of that. Yeah.
Does it ever repeat, or is everything original to the concept it creates, or exposed to the for her? And I did the email. Would the email ever be repeated? The exact same words? Because I'm doing the same thing.
There is always going to be some chance, because this is all probability based. Right? So there is always going to be some chance. But the question is, okay, how much chance is there? And that is determined by, in the model there's a parameter called as hyperparameter called as temperature. So temperature decides how much randomness you want to bring into your responses. And usually that is set at, I think default is about 0.2 to 0.5 is what they set it at, right? And so every time you ask the same question, you are likely to get actually different answers. And so that is why it's difficult to believe that you will have you will be able to easily observe that your exact email is recreated by somebody else. It's a very, very small chance of that happening. But it's a non-zero chance, because it's ultimately all probability.
It's literally a reshuffle. It's statistical analysis of reshuffling whatever amount of words are out there. So you're right, it's minuscule, but it's still going to reshuffle that way. So I mean, maybe 100 years from now, somebody will replicate the exact same email. What by the probability of that chance, exactly as it is, but you would also have to be required to put in a very similar prompt. But the chance is there, because it's literally shuffling cards around and putting it out. So there's always a statistical probability. Which is why in marketing, our rule of thumb is when we're using it, you're going to edit it. So when you start in ChatGPT and then edit it, not the other way around.
Yeah, the chance does get lower, because one thing that's happening in the public space
Right.
is it's using current available data.
Correct.
So as the data is changing, data is being added to, because even this one wrote for you equals part of that database.
That's right.
And so every time it's constantly evolving, so the chances even get less.
Yeah, they can smell like
It's
small. it actually brings me comfort too. And I'm like, it will always require human intervention.
It will, yeah. At this point, at least.
Let's hope that stays true.
Let's hope that stays true.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
Sean, I talked
Correct.
Tesla story, was that the front line? It was just like that. That's crazy.
I know, Tesla, yes. Yeah, when you said they have to take their eyes off the screen, I'm like, well, it's driving for you, so play solitaire if you want. But yes.
All right. So other than that, I had. I'm going to stop here, but I will share my slides with Marian and then.
Yeah, we'll make them available.
So I have, apart from that, I just, I had some examples, like basically which models are there for text and then image generation. Then for video, I found a few. I have not used video myself, but if you are interested, there are models. This space is, by the way, evolving. Yeah, videos. And then I had this one article where, what people are talking about, like when they say AI, so it comes up with 10 companies example, but they are actually using that machine learning and not exactly AI. And then finally, a few challenges posed by the AI systems, and some of them you just now mentioned about the privacy concern. There's also this data leaks that we are talking about, that some of my data can get leaked. And finally, the last one, the copyright infringement has become a big deal. So these are some of the challenges that we have to keep in mind.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you.
Next up, Mr. Scott Philman.
Need a break?
Yeah, you guys want to take a 5-minute biobreak real quick? Refill?
That was my idea. Don't let her think she came in.
You want to use this?
You gave Marianne a prompt and she followed it.
That is the white one, the power cord.